This is the Metro Weekly Podcast. Today we have some recent entertainment news, including these headlines. Lance Bass. I was misdiagnosed with the wrong type of diabetes. Jonathan Bennett to star in Hallmark's first gay-themed movie. And Jim Rash was in heaven working with Scarlett Johansson. Plus, we have 2 reviews, including the new Apple TV remake of Time Bandits and the revisited thriller genre of Twisters. First, a surprise health issue for one of our favorite boy band singers.
The former NSYNC bandmate was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes several years ago, but only recently learned that he actually has type 1. By J.D. Oy on July 29, 2024. Entertainer Lance Bass revealed this week that he had been given the wrong diabetes diagnosis, a too common problem in the diabetes community. I developed diabetes during COVID, and I'm really trying to figure out how to control that, Bass told People in March. I'm learning what you can eat, when you take your insulin, and all that has just been really hard lately. However, in a candid update this week, the former NSYNC band member, now 45, revealed that he had been given misleading information about his health. In a post on TikTok, Bass said this caused him some trouble. So, as many of you know, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes a few years back, he said. When I was first diagnosed, I had a difficult time getting my glucose levels under control, even though I made adjustments to my diet, my medications, and my workout routine. Things were just not adding up. But get ready for the real doozy. I recently discovered that I was misdiagnosed, and I actually have type 1.5, also known as LADA, or latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. It has been quite the journey. He further explained his experience to Yahoo Life. I'm healthy, I work out, I eat right. There's no way I'm diabetic, Bass thought. But after a doctor said tests proved he was full-on diabetic, he found that his treatment regimen did not seem effective. I was so frustrated, and it really was affecting me because I just felt like I was really sick and I could not figure this out. I felt like something was wrong with me. I just recently discovered that it was a misdiagnosis. Diabetes is the name given to a group of health conditions that cause metabolic problems. The body of a person with diabetes has an inability to control its own blood glucose levels. Subsequently, this can lead to numerous long-term health complications. There are dozens of different physiological reasons why a person may develop diabetes permanently or temporarily. Some of the broad categories of problems that can cause diabetes include insulin resistance, immune system issues, genetics, hormonal imbalances, pregnancy, medications, organ damage. Bass now joins a whopping 11.6% of Americans, approximately 38.4 million people, who live with diabetes, highlighting the prevalence and complexity of this condition. LADA, sometimes colloquially referred to as type 1.5, is an autoimmune disease, a form of type 1 diabetes, according to the American Diabetes Association's guidelines. The beta cells of the pancreas are destroyed by the person's own immune system. There's no identifiable cause and no cure, and 9 out of 10 people diagnosed with T1D have no family history of the disease. Some T1D patients do have other autoimmune issues, though, such as Hashimoto's or celiac. In 2022, Lance Bass stated that he had developed psoriatic arthritis, another chronic inflammatory autoimmune condition. The latent aspect of LADA refers to the person's autoimmunity being hidden or undiscovered. Partially, this is due to the slower onset, which often occurs in newly diagnosed adults, where it could be many months or years before exogenous insulin injections are needed. And partially, it is due to mistaken medical practitioner beliefs that type 1 diabetes is restricted to being a juvenile disease, children only. Because of this high level of confusion, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, JDRF, recently changed its name to being Breakthrough T1D instead. Leading diabetes researchers, like Maria Redondo and Richard David Leslie, are trying to get the medical establishment to understand that type 1 diabetes is more common in adults than in children, and are calling for wider, earlier testing of adults for the signs of autoimmunity. Most cases can be detected with a panel of autoantibody tests, along with a test that shows low or declining levels of the proinsulin remnant, C-peptide. If left undiagnosed or improperly diagnosed for too long, AT1D patients' glucose levels will rise despite taking other type 2 diabetes medications, and the person could also develop the severe metabolic state called diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA. Daily insulin administration is the primary treatment. Bass recently joined U.S. presidential candidate Kamala Harris on TikTok to ask, "Hey, Kamala, what are we going to say to Donald Trump in November?" Bye, she responded.
Next, Hallmark Channel makes us want to tune in for something new.
Bennett to star as Danny, a gay ex-jock, in a trilogy following the global romantic escapades of three best friends. By John Riley on July 31, 2024. Jonathan Bennett, best known for his role as Aaron Samuels in Mean Girls, says his upcoming trilogy of films, The Groomsman, will feature the first gay-centric main storyline in a Hallmark Channel movie. Bennett, 43, told People that he will play the character of Danny in the films, starring alongside Tyler Hynes and BJ Britt, who have previously starred in other Hallmark Channel films. Playing the character of Danny in The Groomsman, not only are we telling a story of friendship and love, but telling a story about a wedding, he said in an interview at San Diego Comic-Con on July 25. "This is the first time we've had a gay wedding on Hallmark as the lead storyline," Bennett said. "And that's a huge move for the gay community so they can see themselves represented in these stories." According to Hallmark, the movie follows the lives and romantic relationships of three best friends of different backgrounds, cultures, and sexual orientations, as they each find love and wedding bliss in picturesque locations Greece, Italy, and Bulgaria. Bennett's character, Danny, is an ex-jock with a heart of gold, in comparison to Britt's Pete, described as a kind-hearted pediatrician with a penchant for planning, and Hines' role as Jackson, a stylish and charming social media agent. "We got to shoot my character Danny's storyline in Greece," Bennett said. "And when you put me, Tyler Hynes, and BJ Britt in Santorini, jumping off cliffs, it's literally like paradise, and a dream come true because we got to film a gay love story in Santorini for Hallmark Channel. It's all the things that we love. We love destinations, we love friendship, we love romance, and we love Greece," he continued. "So, like all those things combined for my movie, it blew it out of the water." Bennett has previously played leading and supporting roles as straight characters in Hallmark films, and had a secondary storyline as a gay brother with a romantic partner in the Hallmark movie The Christmas House, which, at the time, was billed as the channel's first gay film, despite the primary storyline being about the straight brothers' romantic adventures. The Groomsman, however, appears to be the first movie in the franchise to feature a gay lead storyline, or at least one of multiple storylines that each hold equal weight or equal importance within the film trilogy. The idea that the Hallmark Channel would even allow a gay storyline was unthinkable a few years ago. In 2019, the channel infamously yanked an ad depicting a lesbian wedding from the air at the behest of social conservatives and threats of boycotting the channel, only to later reverse course. Right-wing activist groups also circulated petitions calling on the channel to promise to keep identifiable LGBTQ characters out of Hallmark films, even in supporting or minor roles. The following year, Bill Abbott, the then CEO of Crown Media Family Networks, expressed an openness to having LGBTQ characters in film and even depicting same-sex relationships, in response to criticism from some viewers about the lack of diversity, both in terms of race, religious minorities, and non-traditional families, in casting and storyline development. Unfortunately, the decision to expand the pool of actors and write more diverse characters into movies led some of the channel's more politically conservative stars, and Abbott himself, to jump ship to the Great American Family Channel, which has billed itself as a refuge for conservative viewers who wish to see storylines on screen that promote the values of, preferably Christian, faith and support for traditional family structures. Bennett, who will also host Hallmark's first reality competition series, Finding Mr. Christmas, which will premiere later this year, said in an Instagram post earlier this month that he's been honored to make stories that mean something. "I hope when you see these stories you find a part of them that you identify with and they mean something to you," he wrote. "Because that is our why. Why we do what we do. And sure, we have a little fun in the process." The Groomsman movies will debut on Hallmark Plus this fall.
Actor Jim Rash spoke with Metro Weekly about his new film and being on set with Scarlett Johansson.
In Fly Me to the Moon, Academy Award winner Jim Rash plays a preening director and steals every scene that he's in. By Randy Schulman on July 20, 2024. Ask Jim Rash what it's like to work with Scarlett Johansson, and he visibly swoons. "How much time do we have?" he says. "I was in heaven. I didn't know her. And I didn't know Channing Tatum, either. But they were genuinely funny and lovely. And the tone that they both set the stage with was just joy. Rash co-stars with Johansson and Tatum in Fly Me to the Moon, a winsome modern-day screwball about the faking of the 1969 moon landing, directed by Greg Berlanti, known for Love, Simon. Rash plays Lance Vespertine, a high-strung diva of a director hired to create the landing on a soundstage as a backup, in case the actual landing goes bust. Leaning into the age-old conspiracy theory that Stanley Kubrick secretly directed the moon landing, Fly Me to the Moon is sweet summer froth, and Rash's performance is one of its absolute highlights. It was a blast to play someone who was unapologetic for themselves, he says of the character. Bravado and a little bit of narcissism. And plus, he has impeccable style. How could you not want to be that person? Rash, who is gay, is well known for his portrayal of Dean Pelton on the sitcom Community, which ran from 2009 to 2015. He's also an Academy Award winner for the screenplay to 2011's The Descendants, a George Clooney vehicle that he co-wrote with Nat Faxon and director Alexander Payne. The cliched statement I think I've always made, he says of the moment they called his name at the Oscars, is that it's an out-of-body kind of a moment. You go a little flush when you hear your name and know you're actually going to go up there. A lot of people are like, oh my, it's changed everything, but winning the Oscar didn't really change everything in the sense that, for me, writing has always been this prickly ballet between your love and hate relationship with it. Nothing's better than a finished script. Nothing's better than hearing it read out loud for the first time. But nothing's worse than a blank page, sometimes for days. But then knowing that you wrote one page sometimes feels like a huge success, a chore, but a huge success. Rash's next project is Miss You, Love You, which he not only wrote but directed. He's aiming for it to hit the festival circuit later this year. The drama, which stars Allison Janney and Andrew Rannells, concerns a woman whose husband has passed away. With a funeral to plan and grieving to be done, she reaches out to her estranged son. He refuses to come home, choosing instead to send his personal assistant to help make the arrangements, according to Deadline. I wrote it during the pandemic, says Rash, and we shot it last February really quickly, like in 17 days. On the topic of LGBTQ roles only going to LGBTQ actors, Rash is honest yet diplomatic. For me, it becomes prickly in the sense that is the reverse going to be thrust upon us, he says. Where a gay man can only play gay and straight can only play straight. I think that's where it gets a little difficult. I don't know if it should be all or nothing. Still, he stresses that casting directors should give more LGBTQ actors a shot at LGBTQ roles. I'm 1000% on giving those who are overlooked an opportunity because there will be a richness within the texture of someone who identifies with a role inhabiting that role. He advocates that LGBTQ artists should be making art for people to see themselves on the screens, as his friend Billy Eichner did with Brothers, in which Rash appeared. It's invaluable, he says. Wrapping up our Zoom call, he's asked to list his current favorite LGBTQ films. Seated in a stylish, cream-colored gaming chair, he ponders the question briefly. I mean, there's so many, he says. Moonlight. All of Us Strangers. God, I love that movie. Carol is really lovely. Call Me by Your Name. He pauses. And I've got to put in Brothers, because Billy will see this and I'll get in trouble.
Finally, we have two reviews. First, Time Bandits, followed by Twisters.
Time Bandits is a spirited, hilarious fantasy. Lisa Kudrow leads a circle of funny friends in an action-packed series reinvention of the 80s classic, Time Bandits. By Andre Herford on July 27, 2024. Reimagining, not just remaking, the beloved 1981 film directed by Terry Gilliam, Apple TV+, Time Bandit series charts its own clever course through history. The original movie, written by Gilliam and Monty Python mate Michael Palin, and featuring Palin and John Cleese in supporting roles, served up an eccentric, ruefully sardonic take on myth and modern times. The titular bandits, having stolen God's map of the universe, had decided to use the all-powerful tool to hopscotch through time, ransacking wealth from the likes of Napoleon, Robin Hood, and King Agamemnon. Along the way, the bandits, portrayed by 6 talented men of short stature, crashed through a time portal into the present-day bedroom of 11-year-old history buff Kevin, who was whisked off on the adventure of his life. Not only a spirited, escapist fantasy aimed at kids, Gilliam's movie was a visual marvel that took fearless turns into dark corners of greed, consumerism, loss, and abandonment. The film's notoriously bleak ending boldly subverted the common fairy tale that as long as the kid hero makes it home safe from Oz, then all will be rainbows and sunshine. The 10-episode series dabbles in such darkness, but series creators Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi don't let the show live there. This time Bandits, following the same premise of hurtling through history searching for loot and treasure, leans much harder on the humor, and that's where it shines. Amidst the epic adventure and action, and fictionalized takes on famous historical figures and events, the show is hilarious. Gilliam's Baroque style and filmmaking prowess can't be duplicated, but Waititi, who directed 2 of the 10 eps, including the series opener, is certainly no slouch in that department. And, as for blending escapist fantasy with sharply aimed absurdity, Clement has proven more than capable of that with seasons of the hit comedy What We Do in the Shadows, based on the film he co-wrote and co-directed with Waititi. They've assembled here a fabulous-looking production, fronted by Lisa Kudrow as Penelope, ostensible leader of the Time Bandits, former minions of the supreme being who have stolen his map, and are racing through time and space seeking riches. The bandits are, of course, a mess as marauders, but they're a ball to spend time with. Kudrow, especially, endears as an insecure leader nevertheless determined to hold her team together. And she syncs her singular comedic rhythms well with the ensemble, including Tig Murphy as wannabe actor Alto, Rune Tempt as sensitive strongman Bitterleg, Charlene Lee as bumbling thief Judy, and Roger Jean Sengiumva as master of the map widget, who is not the best at reading maps. Although, as Penelope points out, this is not so much a map as it is a celestial chart of the anomalies and portals of the intimately interwoven intricacies of time and space, and all the dimensions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's a long-winded, well-delivered way of saying they usually have maybe a 50/50th chance of landing at their intended destination. Mostly, they seem to be winging it, happening upon Stonehenge as a work in progress, or arriving outside the Trojan horse as it's being rolled up to the gates of Troy. It's the bandits' good fortune that they first crash into the bedroom of bookish English kid Kevin, played by marvelous young actor Kal-El Tuck. Totally up for the adventure, Kevin tags along with the bandits, whether Penelope wants him to or not. But he proves his worth. Knowledgeable about history and literature, he generally can assess exactly where and when they are, and who they're dealing with. Armed with that knowledge, he can help strategize how best to navigate situations given known facts and legends. Yet, regardless of his astute assessments, young Kevin has no idea of the dangers the bandits face from their old boss, the Supreme Being, who, in a nod to the film, chases them through time in the form of a giant head demanding, "Return the map." They're also pursued by evil, not evil, as indelibly portrayed by David Warner in the movie, but in this case, wrongness, who rules over his fortress of darkness and is played with deeply funny seriousness by Clement. As the bandits steal their way through time, what becomes clear, again and again, is the value of knowing history in order to plot a path forward. While Kevin's snarky sister Saffron, Keira Thompson, also fantastic, and dim-witted mom and dad, Felicity Ward and James Dryden, consistently amusing, tease him over his boring hobbies, the show reiterates that nothing good comes of discarding history, facts, and knowledge. The irony is that it takes an 11-year-old to constantly point this out, since grown-ups, as we know, are so unfortunately apt to forget. Time Bandits earns 4 out of 5 stars.
Twisters offers tempestuous weather and tepid love. Glenn Powell rides the whirlwind as the best thing in Twisters, a storm-chasing sequel only mildly as thrilling as the original. By Andre Herford on July 19, 2024. In 1996, the original Twister stormed the summer box office,
winding up as the year's second highest grossing movie, behind Independence Day. Directed by Jan de Bont, who was still riding high off the success of Speed, Twister was loud, action-packed, and, especially when viewed today, utterly of its time. It's totally 90s Hollywood, from the treacly, faux Spielberg score, to the glow of Helen Hunt's movie stardom, to the fact that the only non-white cast member among dozens of characters has just a single incidental line. There was plenty that filmmakers might do differently with a sequel. But there was one aspect worth repeating: the storm-tossed intensity of the action, presented with run-and-gun urgency, and shot and edited with the dexterity of a filmmaker who had cut his teeth as a cinematographer on action bangers like Die Hard. That cow-spinning, edge-of-your-seat excitement is what's largely missing from Twisters, directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Chung, riding high off the success of his excellent, Oscar-nominated 2020 indie drama Minari, seems a daring choice to helm a $200 million budgeted studio tentpole. The bet pays off in terms of Twisters feeling grounded in real-world consequences, where tornadoes aren't just great video content for storm-chasing yahoos, but are terrible monsters of nature that decimate whole communities. Yet, the film's disaster mayhem remains fairly low-key, save for a suspenseful sequence of a Twister whipping through an oil refinery on its way to walloping a small town. Often in those scenes, with cyclones bearing down on a town, or, as in one scene, bum-rushing a rodeo, Chung keeps the camera on the characters cowering in fear, when really we want to see Twisters whipping up destruction. There's a balance between relishing the devastation and caring for the characters in danger, and this movie misses it. The balance also seems off in the casting. The story is built around meteorology expert Kate Carter, who, years after losing almost her entire field crew to a Twister, is pulled back into storm chasing for a good cause. Played by top-billed Daisy Edgar-Jones, best known for TV roles in British series Normal People and Cold Feet, Kate is ostensibly the hero of Twisters. Yet, Edgar-Jones is consistently outshined by co-star Glenn Powell as the self-proclaimed tornado wrangler, Tyler Owens, a good OL boy from Arkansas in a 10-gallon cowboy hat. Had the movie twisted midway to focus instead on just Tyler and his quirky, diverse crew of stormhounds, including Nope's Brandon Perea and Love Lies Bleeding star Katie O'Brien, that would have been fine by me. But we're stuck with dour Kate, who is still mourning her crew, and is ambivalent about getting back in the storm-chasing game, and is seemingly oblivious to the fact that Tyler, somehow, starts falling for her staid, unfunny self as their separate crews race around Oklahoma looking for Twisters. In one scene, Tyler silently takes her in, realizing she might be the girl of his dreams. Powell, talk about movie star glow, conveys the instant that Tyler starts to see this woman not as competition but as a kindred spirit. Cut to Edgar-Jones' Kate, not seeing or feeling the same things, and, more importantly, not giving us the twinkle of anything that Tyler would find so enchanting. Beyond intelligence and beauty, we need to see star quality, and Edgar-Jones doesn't bring that it factor. That's an issue when she's the center of a romantic triangle that also includes Anthony Ramos as storm scientist Javi, a survivor of the disaster that took her previous crew. Equipped with a military prototype radar system he hopes to use for more accurate and useful imaging of how Twisters form, Javi comes calling for Kate's help. "You have a gift," he tells her, trying to recruit her to his new team, co-led by Stickler Scott, played by upcoming big-screen Superman David Corenswet, who looks super, though Scott is an asshole. Javi and Scott have a deep-pocketed sponsor and the right tech, but their team needs Kate and her gift for reading the winds, like some ancient sage, discerning which way storms will blow. As demonstrated by her highly gifted method of tossing dandelion seeds into the breeze, she's the only one who can get them close enough to Twisters to deploy the equipment. What Kate wants is to use the tech to figure out how to shut down storms and save lives. That appears to be what Javi wants, too. Like Kate, he also has a redemption arc here, and it's more compelling than his pining for her. Although, the love triangle angle does provide maybe the movie's best sight gag, a slow-motion shot of both guys running to Kate's aid. There's a version of this movie where Tyler and Javi just keep running, past Kate, into each other's arms, driving off into the sunset in Tyler's comically large Ram pickup. Perhaps in another 30 years, we'll get a Twisters with a real twist. Twisters earns 2 out of 5 stars.
And that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. Please hit like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. We love that you enjoy our podcast and are so thankful you're helping us to grow. Visit metroweekly.com for more entertainment updates.